Good day everyone, Dr. Blob here. Over a year ago I made a promise to give everyone the chance to promote those ships you might have wanted to analyze. While a bit late, here are my thoughts. As last time, I will be checking if these couples could work out according to the next criteria. Background, as in what's their story about. Lore, as in canonical events. And personality, as in what they like. As for how these ships will be ranked. Starting with the obvious, if all info points to things not working out, I simply can't see it. Either their personalities don't work, their beliefs are too different, or they literally don't know each other. Granted, some leniencies will be given to make things easier, interpreting both sides as interested in a relationship. But if the evidence is overwhelmingly against them, then I won't be forcing it. Next is good friends, for couples who work well together but only in a platonic sense. Even if they were to look for an actual relationship, it simply lies somewhere else. Finally, if things seems to work out, I will be deeming them as having good chemistry, as they managed to get past the previous ranks. However, having good chemistry can still be interpreted as merely friends, just closer than regular. But if there is enough evidence pointing at them working out, or even having some hints from the developers themselves, then I will be granting them the chip of approval. With this out of the way, let us start with Minotaurus 205 asked for Provence and Scavenger. I'm surprised I didn't talk about these two last year. I guess they were too obvious of a choice, which makes it surprising that this ship, despite being so old and popular, is pretty much one-sided. We all know the rat is down bad for the tail, like even in lore she's terrible at hiding it. Yet the fluffer is someone who is easy to get along with, to the point pretty much all messengers look up to her. So while Scavenger is most definitely interested, there is no official information regarding Provence in this equation. If we bend things to see if a relationship could work, well, things get a bit clearer. Yes, Provence is a friendly individual, but he sounds like someone who tries her darnest to look for the best in people, this being what captures Scavenger to begin with. Not to mention, she has shown to go to extreme lengths to save others, even over her own safety. Here is where Scavenger's selfishness can counteract Provence's selflessness, giving each other someone to return to in an hypothetical relationship. As things are right now though, we'll only say they have good chemistry. Hopefully we will once get Provence's perspective in this relationship. Miche asked for W and Teresa. W embarked on a crusade for her own safety be them. However, we don't know Teresa's side, as she was, as far as we know, an all-loving monarch. And when looking at Teresa's clone, W felt nothing but disgust, not because of him cloning her, but rather how he perverted her dream of a unified castle. But then there is this image from chapter 14, so I am not entirely sure what she feels, as everything in her mind. Sadly, I have very little information regarding the possible relationship between these two. At the very least, it is clear there was something from W's side. Arknights GG asked for Viviana and Cor-lest-Stein. While their time was short, there was definitely a spark between these two. However, I think it was meant to be of the familiar kind. Viviana has just lost her family, and Cora knew the candlelight as the gentle girls she had to send to a faraway land. Both had their regrets, and clearly hoped they could mend each other's wounds. Alas, fate had other plans. Angela asked for Mumu and The Doctor. Without a doubt, the one pairing with the most chemistry between the two of them. From the way they communicate to their silly interactions, it is clear these two had seen each other as special individuals. Now, do not confuse closeness with romance. They are special to each other because of what they represent to each other. Kin, not a regular kind, but rather of another individual who, in their own way, had been through the same experiences, making them the only one who can fully understand the situation they find themselves in. Now, if they wanted to become an actual couple, I don't think there will be much of a difference as how they act right now, if only with a bit more intimacy. The stronger counter-argument will be how Mumu decided to throw the Doctor off the cradle during Long Trail, yet it can also be seen as Mumu knowing it was a one-way trip, and not wanting the Doctor to leave everything behind for her sake. Doctor returning for Mumu by the end can also imply they understand and forgive her. Considering this information, and the fact that they still have very cute interactions despite of what happened in Long Trail, I would say not only do they have good chemistry, but they also received this video's first ship of approval. Congratulations, YouTube. Roland Black Silence asks for the Doctor and calls it. Already talked about them last video and no new information has come out since then. However, something I would like to point out is how, right after being cheated by Mumu during the climax of Long Trail, the one who was there for the Doctor was none other than Calcit. The 14 Colossus just chilling on a sofa, now there's a mental image, asks for Gavial and Eunectes. Rivals to lovers is a usual trope, and while they have very different approaches, those two have very similar points of view, namely might makes right. So if they were interested in a proper relationship, and Tomimi somehow didn't go full yandere about it, I think these two could be a nice couple. More of the brash and direct kind than of the fluffy feelings variety. As a counter though, they are both very steadfast on their personal paths in life, with Eunectes prioritizing technology and Gavial preferring muscle, and medicine. While it could work, something tells me it just wouldn't. Again, I'm making this analysis with the presumption that both sides will be interested in a relationship, and yet, the more I think about it, the more I see these two liking the relationship as friends, but definitely of the close kind. Yeye's OTA asked for Mostima and Bison. During the event, there was this something between these two, as if Bison couldn't stop being amazed and disillusioned by Mostima. I wouldn't be surprised if the young entrepreneur had his first crush that night. However, and as with everyone else in Penguin Logistics, I see him keeping things professional. Mostima is not someone to be tied down, regardless of her background, so other than longing glances and sporadic teasing, I don't think this could go far, and they will gracefully accept it, leaving them as just good friends. McFennec asked for Surtr and Yucatan. They are freaking married. Johnny Johnson's asked for Logos and Damatzi. This one is tricky, not for the different faction status that kind of got solved by the end of chapter 13, but rather due to the Damatzi's way of thinking. They are perhaps one of the more alien beings in all of Terra, let alone the Sarkas, an amorphous hive mind who longs for new experiences. Having lived for over 7,000 years, I guess entertainment is hard to get by. Their personality, of what little I could get, is that they are cordial and even friendly to those around them. Being virtually immortal might make any potential risk irrelevant to them. So how could a relationship even work? I could say, well, they want to experience new things, so a relationship could be possible, right? But that will be in a regular mind. The cluster are anything but. They want to experience new things, yes, but through the eyes of others. They don't seem to have a notion of self beyond their existence, meaning they are unable to feel for themselves in the traditional sense. Given enough stimuli, and they will begin generating their own version of said emotions, as seen when he felt genuine envy for Golding's results, about her committing unaliving. If you notice I haven't said a word regarding Logos, that's because there is no point. Even if I were to force them into a relationship, the Damatzi is just too alien for me to fully comprehend. So while I think they are a very interesting character, and considering how they act cordial to most people, I will say that at the very least, these two will be in friendly terms. Gregory asked for Logos and the Sanguinarch. Another surprising one. I mean, this relationship will simply not work not only because of the factions each of them belongs to, but also because they have completely different sets of goals and views. Not to mention the end of chapter 13. Having said that, if there were someone to be interested for a relationship, it will be the Sanguinarch, even how Logos was the only one to be respectfully treated by the Sanguinarch. Something not even Teresis can talk about. However, that's mostly due to Logos being a pure blood. So while the Sanguinarch could show some interest, it would be entirely due to his egoistical views, not for who Logos really is. Therefore, and considering how things went in the story, I simply can't see this ship working. Libna asked for Shovel and Magdalene. I was about to say there was too little information to do a proper analysis, but there were a couple of things worthy to look into. Namely, Shovel was part of the Royal Guard, meaning, like Hedori and Ursula, he had a more proper education than most Sarkas. Seeing how Brentwood was particularly peaceful, how he could recognize seeds at a glance and even appreciate the beauty of flowers, already tells us he was far from a warmonger. However, if he allowed Magdalene to keep her flowers, going out of his way to help her and even give her an escape route, was not due to romantic feelings. Shovel knew what was going to happen to the little town, and he was riddled with guilt, to the point he let himself be cut down if it meant Magdalene could have a chance. Sadly, their interactions were too short to delve into deeper what-ifs. Not to mention, Magdalene told little about what she did. If anything, she saw him as just another Sarkas occupying her town. Had things gone differently though, had Shovel and Magdalene met in far more peaceful circumstances, maybe, just maybe, they could have grown a genuine friendship, born from their mutual love for gardening. But as it is, there was nothing to be done. Mighty Be Good asked for Lappland and Texas. I was confused at first, since the game wasn't too clear on how the relationship was supposed to be, but Il Siracusano pretty much answered it all. They are friends, plain and simple. Okay, that might be an exaggeration considering how messy their lives are, but Lappland saw Texas as the perfect Syracusan, as someone she could aim to be and or beat. Texas on her end sympathized with Lappland, as she knew the conditioning she went through in order to become the monster she is today. And while they understand each other, that doesn't mean there are deeper feelings involved. They are frenemies in the most literal sense of the word, and neither of them wants anything else from it. Bobby Kenya asked for Cru Alter and Mr. Nothing. Surprisingly, there's a lot and at the same time very little information regarding these two. Personally, I see the relationship being of that of friends, more like willing servant and reluctant master. But if I were to look at it in a more personal light, I found myself surprised. Both have a very indirect way of talking, dodging the more delicate stuff yet being quite direct when they'd have to. Not to mention how each of them have their respective hidden skeletons, making it easy for them to bond over them. Surprisingly enough. So while it could take a while, and I do mean a while, I'm talking romance manga will they want this sort of BS here, but once they come clean to each other, they will have the exact same relationship, not so different as with Mumu and The Doctor, with the difference that when they talk in riddles, they will understand what the other is saying, giving them an extra layer for trolling others. Considering all this information, I will say, okay, they have good chemistry, but as it stands, it could be left at just a friendly chemistry. Minecraft really like as for Shining and Nightingale. There is something about the followers as a whole, but as far as I know, what Shining feels the most is guilt, as even taking into account CN information, the story hasn't gone that deep into Nightingale's backstory, besides her being some sort of attempt to an artificial Sarkas king. However, we have seen that Liz does seem to regard Shining in a brighter light, ironic. It is even implied that it was her who gave Shining her new name. Their sudden separation by the hands of the confessori feels almost out of a romantic novel. So while the information is not exactly clear, it is obvious that these two have strong feelings involved. Are they romantic feelings though? I cannot fully say. However, it is obvious that the writing team meant for us to see them as very close. So for now, I will just say they have good chemistry, and wait for more information to come. Coralfa asked for Logos and Mudrock. I understand when this started, since he literally went and saved Mudrock and her followers. A mixture of brother in arm with knight in shining armor does look interesting. However, that's about it. Other than their meeting, Logos and Mudrock took their own paths, with no other mention of them interacting whatsoever, and unlike Jordi and Irene, who at least had good chemistry to back them up, there is little to no information to back this ship up. Personality-wise, I can't see it either. Mudrock is a demure woman who talks in verses and thinks about her place in the world. Logos, on the other hand, is a goal-driven elite operator of Rhodes Island. While there could be something should the stars align, I think they could have interesting interactions, with Logos trying to help Mudrock find safe place in the world. But as things are, I sadly can't see it. At most, and I'm pushing it on my end, I see them solely as good friends. I might change my outlook should more information come out. Ghostfire asks for Kristen and Saria. As much as I like the hypothetical relationship with her ex-wife, I can't deny Saria held Kristen in high regard. She was her shield and treated Rhine Labs as an extension of Kristen. Thus her will to protect it from all harm, even from Kristen herself. Kristen on her side saw Saria as the only living being worthy of her friendship, being the only one to get any sort of reaction from Control in the whole event and manga, going so far as to deny her resignation in order to feel like Saria was still around. And here we have a similar occurrence as with the Doctor and Mumu. Kristen also cheated Saria off the cradle, as she knew it was a one-way trip, and hoped for Saria to have a life. While motivated by corporate capitalism and her single-gun mentality, Kristen definitely felt something for Saria, albeit I thought she was aware of it. A drawback of said single-target mentality. So had Saria been less stoic and more emotional for once, maybe Kristen could have finally found the one thing worth staying for. As it is though, I will say they had great chemistry, but sadly, they both sailed long before the beginning of the game. Adelheid von Karma asks for Nearl and Viviana Droste. I presume you meant Margaret Nearl? Viviana has something for the Radiant Knight that can be seen from the stratosphere. The question being, will Nearl return Saint feelings? Again, we have the whole mess that is the followers. To quote the previous Casimir's champion when he meets Shining, how are you two related? For once, could be Nearl's version of the Damatzi to fight for, but then again her interactions with Shining are not exactly professional, very respectful though, making it a bit harder for me to analyze. But for the sake of this video, let's just say Nearl sees the two Sarkaz ladies as allies, or that they don't mind sharing, and give Viviana a chance. I think they could have a very cute relationship. Nearl is the embodiment of a perfect knight. She fights for the weak and will not doubt to put her life on the line for them. Viviana obviously loves that part of Nearl, but again, what about the other way around? While not as honorable as Nearl, Viviana also cares for the weak and the feeble, so their values will align with this. But the more I think about it, the harder I see Nearl with romantic interest. If anything, Viviana will have to be the one to make her intentions known for Nearl to understand. As things are now, I can't make a fully concrete resolution. But considering their personalities, I will say they had good chemistry. No seal though, as the followers are still a mess to understand. AZNRCMP asks for Holgejak and Eunectes. Don't see it, even if Lance and 2 didn't exist. I understand where the ship comes from, Tic Tacs and Tails combo, but I'm afraid I simply can't see it. Zumama is a caring individual who does her damnedest to improve the lives of those around her. Paul just loves to mess with everyone in very sadistic ways just for the heck of it. If anything, I can see a rivalry between those two as they try to outdo each other. If I stretch it myself, they will have a love-hate sort of relationship, but again, I just can't see it. Holgejak will just see Zumama as some Bakali technician not worthy of their time, and Zumama has her big sister. Not to mention, they don't know each other, as far as we know. As for Surtr and Thorns, lore-wise, there is nothing supporting these two. Personality-wise though, that's where it gets interesting. While Thorns is aloof and quiet, it is not like he's distant or despot. He does listen to what's happening around him and is surprisingly understanding. Surtr on her hand is loud and very short-tempered, but will not doubt to help someone in front of her. In her very own brash way, of course. So the silent Thorns will be able to understand and keep calm through Surtr's outbursts with ease, being able to de-escalate the situation by virtue of keeping quiet. Though it has been shown that he can be quite cool on times, Surtr on her end will have someone capable who doesn't get in her way and neither asks too many questions, thus keeping things functional between them. So I can see them developing a good rapport with one another. Romantic wise though, is where things get muddier. With her memories being the mess that they are, Surtr will be far from interested into building a romantic relationship with someone, and Thorns on his end seems to be the type to keep to himself. So even if they were to build enough trust to start a relationship, I doubt they will go for it. If Surtr were to solve her issue though, then things could change. But as they are, I can see them only as good friends. Random web crawler. Hello Peter. As for Mudrock and Enforcer. Unexpected. Like, other than Enforcer's operator record, there is little to nothing linking these two together. However, I found myself surprised because of how similar their personalities are. They are both very quiet yet gentle individuals who will stop at nothing when it means to help those in need. Aiden being carrying around a bunch of infected to a safe place, or escorting a young lady in the search for her father. And while they are similar there, they also have differences that also fit well with one another. Enforcer is political and by the book, while Mudrock is stoic and patient. I am seriously surprised of how well these two fit with one another. Now, considering the information we know, both sides have no issue with their respective races. While Mudrock had no qualms making use of violence, it's never her first course of action. Same with Enforcer, meaning they will be able to talk most things out, again, as seen in the operator's record. Lore-wise, there could even be some basis for a relationship to form, as apparently, it was Mudrock who served as Enforcer and Kekelia's escort into Castle, giving them some time to get to know each other a bit more. However, in the newest manga from Terra Historicus, we see that Mudrock did get them into Castle, and then probably contracted someone else to be their guide, meaning they went their separated ways. So as far as canon is concerned, these two are just acquaintances. Analyzing all the information and considering everything, I will say that if they were to spend more time together, maybe, just maybe, there could be a basis for something more. But as it is, I'm afraid they are just friends. A old lady asked for Phantom and Playwright. I had to look around a lot in order to understand the Playwright. IS is still the bane of my existence, and the more I learn of him, the less I think this relationship could work. The Playwright sees everyone as mere characters for him to control. Nothing more, nothing less. And while Lucian might have a special role, it's mostly due to his skills than any emotional attachment he could have for him. If anything, the only individual he sees as a real person will be the Master, thus making this ship completely impossible. Phantom on his end went as far as to kill the troop once in order to gain his freedom, so I doubt there are any attachment from his part. Mom's account. Mamá, ¿qué andas haciendo por aquí? Ask for Exusiai and Texas. The one duo to go through thick and thin. Exusiai is well known for being able to fit in with everyone, even Lappland, so it is no wonder she was able to become friends with the Ice Queen. Beyond that, nothing in canon points at a possible relationship beyond friendship. We know Texas tries her darnest to keep away from people. Again, with Elzira Kusano showing us how they already are at the closest they could ever be. They are friends, very good friends who will risk their life for one another. But that's about it. If they were interested in another way though, I doubt there will be much difference in their relationship compared to what they already have going on. Bent asked for Penance and Vigil. I already talked about this last time, but hope we get more info in the next part of the Circus and storyline. LDXGG asked for Skadi and The Doctor. I was unable to find any information of the new gear event, thus my original stance stays the same. Just friends, with the possibility of the Alter being the one more interested, but that will imply we are in the worst possible timeline. But to make up for it, LDXZG also asked for Ines and Hedori. At first, it looked like Irene and Hedori shared the same kind of vitriolic relationship as with W, mercenaries who had been together for so long that they tolerate the presence enough to pursue a common goal. Or so that was until the events of chapter 11 through 13. Through this chapter we get to see that, while indeed vitriolic, Hedori and Irene do share a more polite relationship, constantly joking about how they wouldn't even doubt about dispatching the other should the need arise. yet never failing to save each other when needed. Heck, throughout the whole story, Hedori has failed to keep his stoic personality only once. When Irene first died, Irene on her part had absolutely nothing to win by going through W and Hedori's revenge, and she even wondered herself why she is still fighting alongside W madness and Hedori's dullness, only for her to say, "I always knew," while jumping alongside the man who has been with her almost all of her life. Oh, haven't mentioned this yet? While Irene's previous life is a mystery, other than her being a former noble from Lytanian, we know she ran from the spires and encountered a certain Sarkar's boy. Said boy then proceeded to take care of her, teaching her the ropes of a mercenary life and helping her fit in as a Sarkas. To this day, we still ignore why the boy decided to help her out, but all we know is that he saw something in her and decided to not let go. In current times, Hedori openly invited Irene to go live with him in Castle once the war is over. Not as mercs, but as simple merchant and teacher, going so far as to offer his first salary as a startup for their store. Even W comments on how these two are planning of having a love nest long before the war is over, with neither of them denying her. I think it is pretty safe to say that, while they play the elusive giving their lives as mercenaries, they are indispensable to one another, to the point Hedori appears in Irene's first skin, an honor very few characters sharing the whole roster, as in properly drawn, not just an illusion. Given the information from the story, their personalities, and even the insinuations, it is safe to assume that these two are one step off becoming an actual couple, and granting them the chip of approval. And that's it. Those are the characters everyone was curious about this year. Honestly, it is not like I am a luminary in relationships, but I'm glad you were curious about my own personal thoughts. If these answers weren't of your liking, well, you are free to ship as you desire. That is how imagination works after all. Just remember to be kind to others with different preferences. This has been Dr. Plop, thanking you all for your time, and humbly asking you to like and share this video if you like it. And of course, be sure to share your commentaries down below. As always, I am very interested to know what you think about this video of mine. And if you wanted to see other ships being analyzed, or not, there is always next year. And until next time, stay healthy everyone.